Hello everyone. So in our previous session, we have learned how to turn on and off an LED or how to use a breadboard, what is an LED, and created a basic circuit of it. Now in today's session, what we are going to do, we are going to use this push button to turn and off an LED. Like here you can see, if I press it, so the LED should turn on, and when I release it, the LED should turn off. So for that, we have to create the basic circuit of it. Now, before going in our circuit diagram, let's first understand how to use this push button. So this is a kind of switch, you have seen this switch in your uh, computer keyboards, that when you press it, then some button or some action has been done. When you release it, then it is not performing. So like that, we have a push button, or we can call it as a momentary button. So it will be active until you the switch. Like if you are pressing it, it will be active. When you release it, it is not active. So it is your push button. We call them a push button. Now if you see the back side of your push button, you can see that it has 4 pins. Let me show you. I think it is not focusing a little bit, but you see it here. You can see that it has 4 pins. Now let me remove this back side. Then I think it might, you might easily see it. Okay, here you can see it. Now here you can see it has 4 pins, but in our switch you can see when I press it, but how to use this 4 pins, that's the problem. Now if you see it very little bit carefully, that on a single side we have 2 pins like this, 2 pins we having on a single side. So these 2 pins will be active when we press the button. Initially these 2 pins are not connected with each other, but when I press it, they will be interconnected. It is internally in our switch that when I press the switch, these 2 pins will be interconnected. Same for this two also. Initially these 2 pins are not connected with each other, but when I press on it, the switch these 2 pins will be interconnected. Now if we see along this line, that is horizontal, vertical, that from top and bottom one, let's name them. It will be much easier for us. So if I name it, let's say I name it, okay, let's name it. So let's say this is your first, second, third, fourth. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So by default, when I'm not pressing the key, 1 and 4 are internally connected. It is not focusing. Okay, like 1 and your 4 are internally connected when I am not pressing the key. Similarly, 2 and 3, these two are also internally connected. But when I press the key, okay, this 1 and 2 are, these 2 pins are internal, connect. When I press it, same for downward, 3 and 4 will be connected when I press it. And by default, this 1, 4, this vertically connection, and this one also. That's we will better understand it by using a breadboard, by performing an actual working circuit. Now let's suppose that we don't know anything about this 4 pins. We only know that when I press the key, the LED should turn on. So let's make all of the 4 pins different. So if I connect it here, let's assume that I am connecting it in here. So you will see that these 2 pins, focus it, okay, these 2 pins here we have, like here they are short circuited, because in our breadboard it is a property that in our component section vertically the columns are like short circuited. So here and here we have short circuited, so we cannot use it like this. So if I turn it and like insert it like this, again these 2 pins will be short circuited and these 2 pins will be short circuited. So what I can do, I can insert them here in the gap. So let me first insert it in the gap. Here you can see 2 pins here. Here we have 2 pins, and here we have 2 pins. So these 4 pins are now different. Now, if we see it from the back side, you will see that we have a gap here. So these are not interconnected. Means the lines goes from here, and in our bottom they have a space, so they are not interconnected. Now one more thing, we have 2 pins. So these 2 pins are different because they are vertically on a different sections. Similarly, we have here these 2 pins are also different, and these sections are also different because we have a gap between them. So all the 4 pins are different. Now let's create a circuit to understand it. So let me use, let's say, this green color LED. I want to turn on this LED when I press the button. So about LED we have already learned about. Let me again explain you. So it will have two legs. One will be your positive, another one will be your negative. It will be only turned when we provide positive leg with a positive supply and the negative one with a negative supply. Now by default, if we have the legs uncutted or we pull out a fresh LED, you will see that two LEDs different length of your legs. The longer one will be your positive, shorter one will be your negative. But if we somehow can't identify, like if someone cuts the leg, then what we have to do? If we see inside of our LED carefully, you will see that it has two sections. Okay, it is not focusing, but if you see it inside of your LED, you will see that okay, here you can see. Okay, no issue. Like if you see on your side, you will there see that inside of it, it has two sections. Now inside it will be like opposite. Now as I have told you, the longer one will be positive, shorter one is negative. Inside the shorter one is positive, longer one is negative. Okay. Now let's say I connected here differently. Both of them are at a different area, so they are not interconnected with each other. No connection we have done till now. Let's use a battery for power supply or power source. We have a positive pin, so let's provide it with a positive power, negative pin with a negative power. Okay, that's it. So we have given the power supply, but we haven't used or connected these two components, so it will not work till now. Now what we want to do, we are going to use some jumper wires and resistance. So here we are using the resistance of 220 ohms. So what I want to do, let's make some connections. So okay, this is my circuit. Let me pull it down. Okay. Now what I want to do, I want to use a resistance and connect it with the positive pin. Right, simply positive, and in the positive the another wire or another pin towards the positive of your LED. So it is like positive to positive, because this is how your LED work. Positive power to the positive one, negative pin to the negative, or we can call as ground. Okay, so positive to the positive. Now we have left with the negative pin or negative part of your LED. So let's use a jumper wire and connect them with one pin. So here we have four pin in our push button, like 1, 2, 3, 4. We have four. Let's connect them with a single one. So let me see. Okay, here we have one. So just the first one. Okay. Now as I know that for turning on an LED, I need to provide it two power supply. One is positive, another one negative. Positive I have provided using the resistance. Negative I have to provide it. So let's use a wire, put it in a negative section. Now I want to provide the negative power. So if I provide it like here, so it is like same pin, so it will be work. If I provide like in the second number pin in front of them like this, so it has two pins. One is here, another one. We have put it the one wire here and another one here. So if I press the key, LED is turning on, releasing, off. Perfect. Apart from these two, we have two more here. So let's check them. If I connect the third pin vertically, here you can see when I press it, turning on, releasing, off. And in front of it, like the same line, it will be by default turn on. As we have already learned about that, in the same area, the wires are internally short circuited, but in the front of them, like here, it will be work when I press it. Similarly for the bad one, like X cross section. So it is a basic circuit diagram. When like when I press the key, the LED will glow. Thank you and see you in the next session.